Deep beneath the rolling hills of your favorite landscape, or perhaps under the very city you call home, a clock is ticking. It isn't measured in seconds or hours, but in the slow, agonizing movement of tectonic plates and the mounting pressure of molten rock.
Right now, there are giants sleeping beneath us, ancient volcanoes that once reshaped the entire map of our world. And if we look closely at their scars, we find a message written in ash and stone, a message that suggests our planet's future isn't a mystery, it's a repeat.
Welcome to Deep Science Explained. We often look to the stars to understand our destiny, but the most profound warnings about our future aren't coming from deep space. They're coming from the deep Earth. In this exploration, we're going to decode the violent language of ancient eruptions to answer the ultimate question: is our civilization prepared for the geological cycles that have wiped the slate clean 5 times before? By the end of this video, you will understand how a single mountain in the past holds the blueprint for the climate of 2026 and beyond. You'll see why the very ground you stand on is a biological hard drive, storing the data of every catastrophe the Earth has ever endured.
This isn't just about rocks and lava. It's about your world, your survival, and the terrifying beauty of a planet that is constantly trying to reinvent itself. If you've ever felt like the world is changing faster than we can understand, you're right. But the answers aren't in the clouds. They're under your feet.
Here's where it gets even stranger. Most people think the greatest extinction event in history was the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs, but that was a mere flesh wound compared to the Great Dying 252 million years ago. Imagine a world where 96% of all marine species and 70% of terrestrial life simply vanished. This wasn't a rock from space. This was the Earth turning on itself.
Scientists have traced this apocalypse back to the Siberian traps, ancient volcanic vents that didn't just erupt for a few days, but for 2 million years. They released enough lava to bury the entire United States under a layer a kilometer deep. But it wasn't the lava that killed the world, it was the gas.
These ancient volcanoes acted like massive chimneys, pumping trillions of tons of carbon dioxide and methane into the atmosphere. This is the part nobody tells you. The chemistry of that ancient eruption is eerily similar to the carbon spikes we are measuring in 2026. When we look at the ash layers from the Permian period, we aren't just looking at history, we're looking at a mirror. The ancient volcanoes tell us exactly what happens when the atmosphere becomes a chemical trap. The oceans turned to acid. The rain became poison. The temperature soared. But here's where it gets crazy. Life didn't just end, it waited. And in that waiting, we find the first clue about our own future. How does a planet breathe again after its lungs have been filled with ash? We're starting to realize that volcanoes aren't just the bringers of death. They are the planet's thermostat. But right now, we are the ones touching the dial. This is the part of Science Explained that feels more like a thriller. About 74,000 years ago, a supervolcano known as Toba erupted in Indonesia. It was 1,000 times more powerful than Mount St. Helens. It threw so much ash into the sky that it plunged the Earth into a volcanic winter that lasted nearly a decade. Think about your life for a moment. Think about the billions of people on this planet. Now imagine a world where almost all of them disappear. Genetic evidence suggests that during the Toba winter, the human population may have crashed to as few as 10,000 breeding pairs. We were, for a few frozen years, an endangered species. We were on the brink of absolute silence. Ancient volcanoes tell us that we are incredibly fragile. One bad decade, one veil of sulfur over the sun, and our high-tech, globalized society becomes a memory. But here is the awe moment. The survivors of Toba didn't just survive, they evolved.
The pressure of that volcanic winter forced humans to become more cooperative, more innovative, and more communicative. The ash that nearly killed us actually forged the modern mind. But this is where everything breaks. In 2026, our climate is shifting, but it's not because of a super eruption. We are creating a human-made volcanic event through our emissions. Ancient volcanoes provide the only data set we have for what happens to a species when its environment changes in a heartbeat. Are we the survivors of Toba, or are we the ash? What would you do if the sun didn't return for 3 years? How would your life change if the grocery stores didn't just run out of bread, but the earth stopped growing wheat? Let's zoom in. To understand the future, we have to look at the deep science of what's happening miles below the surface. Modern geologists are using muon tomography, essentially using cosmic rays from deep space to X-ray the insides of volcanoes. It's like using the universe to peek inside the Earth. Here's what we found. Magma chambers aren't just giant pools of liquid fire. They are complex crystalline sponges, and they are sensitive, very sensitive. Ancient volcanic records show that even small changes in surface pressure, like the melting of massive glaciers, can trigger an eruption. Think about that for a second. As our planet warms and the ice caps melt, we are literally taking the weight off the Earth's crust. It's like taking the lid off a pressure cooker. This is the science behind the planet's future that is rarely discussed on the news. By changing the climate, we might be accidentally poking the sleeping giants below. If this is true, then everything changes. We aren't just facing rising seas. We might be facing an era of increased volcanic activity fueled by the very warming we created. It's a feedback loop written in the geology of the past. The ancient volcanoes of Iceland and the Andes tell a story of deglaciation-triggered volcanism. They are the planet's way of saying, if you move the ice, I move the mountains. But here is where it gets even deeper. There are hotspots like Yellowstone and the Hawaiian Islands that seem to be connected to the very core of our planet. These are the portals through which the Earth's internal heat escapes. Ancient volcanoes at these hotspots show us a terrifying pattern. They don't just erupt, they breathe. Yellowstone has a pulse of roughly 600,000 to 700,000 years. Its last major eruption was 640,000 years ago. Mathematically, we are in the window. But the cosmic mystery isn't when it will blow, it's what it will do to the global cooling system. We often think of global warming as our only threat, but ancient volcanoes remind us that the Earth has a reset button. A single super eruption could drop global temperatures by 10 degrees in a month. It would be the ultimate irony. We spend decades fighting heat, only to be plunged into a frost that we cannot survive.
If you lived through a year with no summer, would your community hold together? This is the part nobody tells you. Our modern world is built on a Goldilocks climate. Not too hot, not too cold. Ancient volcanoes are the proof that Goldilocks is a rare, fleeting moment in geological time. We are living in a temporary lull in a very violent story. So, what is the reveal? What is the one thing ancient volcanoes are trying to tell us about our future? It's this: the Earth is not a static rock. It is a living, breathing, thermodynamic engine. Every eruption in the past was a release of pressure, a rebalancing of the system. When we look at the sulfur trapped in ancient ice cores, we see that the Earth has a remarkable ability to heal itself. It uses volcanoes to seed the oceans with iron, to create new land, and to reset the atmosphere. The reveal is that the Earth will be fine. It has survived the Siberian traps, the Toba bottleneck, and the death of the dinosaurs. The mystery we opened with, the clock ticking beneath us, isn't a countdown to the end of the world. It's a countdown to the end of our version of the world. This changes how we think about the universe and our place in it. We aren't the masters of this planet. We are its guests. We are living in the quiet space between two breaths of a giant.
When you look at an ancient volcano, you aren't looking at a dead mountain. You're looking at a sleeping architect. This realization should give you goosebumps. It makes us feel small, yes, but it also makes our current moment incredibly precious.
We are the first species to ever understand the geological forces that govern us. We are the first ones who can look at a rock and see a map of the future.
Ancient volcanoes tell us that the Earth's future is a story of cycles. It is a story of fire, ice, and resilience. But the question remains, will we be part of the next chapter, or just another layer of sediment for a future species to wonder about?
And if you think the power of Earth's fire is strange, wait until you see what happens when we apply this same logic to the volcanoes of other worlds.
There are mountains on a moon of Jupiter that erupt with enough force to change the orbit of the moon itself. Tell me in the comments, which part of this video broke your brain the most?
Was it the idea that melting ice could trigger eruptions, or that we nearly went extinct 74,000 years ago? I read every single one. Make sure to subscribe to Deep Science Explained as we continue to decode the mysteries of our reality. The ground is moving. Let's keep watching.